Throughout the past several days, we have studied a great deal on ancient Greek and Roman architecture. Today, we will begin to shift our focus on how their innovations in architecture continue to impact and influence many various cultures and their works of art for years to come. To show this, we will take a quick look at the history, or what some would call the story of architecture. We will begin by leaving the age of ancient Greek and Roman art found in classical antiquity and skip ahead to another time that is exciting in the world of architecture. Trust me, you aren't missing out on much during the Dark Ages. Let's move forward to approximately 1050 AD, the medieval era. During the medieval era, we have two main styles, Romanesque and Gothic. Much like that of the Greek culture, the majority of their architectural masterpieces can be found having links or ties to their religion. At this time, the Catholic Church had great power in the everyday lives of people, and so the architects were hired to design a building that would reflect this importance of religion. Enter cathedrals. In these cathedrals, Christians, or followers of Christ, came to worship and honor their God. The cathedrals themselves were indeed a sight to see. During the Romanesque period, the cathedrals, although still impressive, were built more simply, much like those built by the Byzantines. But when the Gothic period began, simplicity was thrown out the window. Dramatic arches and spires, detailed stained glass windows, giant flying buttresses, and ornate jam statues became the style. No, not those kind. These are the jam statues we're talking about. Most cathedrals took years to build. The Reims Cathedral is one of the most popular Gothic cathedrals. Do you see the Greek and Roman influence? Moving along in our architecture story, we come to the Renaissance era. The Renaissance, meaning rebirth, began in Italy and spread throughout the rest of Europe. Unlike previous eras, this time the people were all about self-discovery and the power of man, without a reliance on a deity or God. This awakening brought about a new appreciation for the classical schools of thought regarding science, mathematics, and even art. Remember, we're talking about the Greeks and Romans. Architecture again reflected this interest by toning down the extreme, harsh edges and showcasing more domes and arches than before. This led the way for the Baroque era, and then Rococo era, which was all about extravagance. During the Baroque period, people were ready to flaunt their wealth. Elaborate and expensive buildings and furnishings were common, and with the entrance of the Rococo era, that didn't change much. The main difference between the two was that of ornamentation and decoration. The Rococo era was more flowing, floral, and focused more on the usage of gold. All in all, this was a time of decadence. As you can imagine, people eventually grew tired of the overly complex ornamentation and design and began to look for a more simple solution. This solution became known as neoclassicism. Breaking down the term, we can figure out what that may have looked like. Neo means new, and classical we know refers to the ancient Greek and Roman era. Wait a minute, classical antiquity? Again? Yes, again. While you may believe that this story is becoming an incredibly predictable one, hang on for just a little bit. Things are getting pretty interesting. So the neoclassical era becomes all about strengthening and stabilizing. With all that ornamentation from the Baroque and Rococo periods, people craved a simple, stable design. The neoclassical design provided just that. Skipping over the revivalism period, we go straight to modernism. In our short, but actually long, story of architecture, this is where we are thrown the curveball. In theory, modernism was exactly what it sounds, modern. One of the main goals of modernism was to pave the way in the field of creating design that did not rely a single bit on previous cultures' architectural traditions. They aimed to break free of the classical design, shed the complexities found in the medieval and Baroque periods, and become something unlike the rest. Due to the Industrial Revolution, the usage of new materials such as plate glass and steel allowed architects to create structures that were both innovative in form and structure. Lastly, we end with the now, the present, what we call the postmodernism and 21st century design. Just like with modernism, the classical design is no longer present. Instead, more attention is being spent on natural and sustainable architecture, going green. Natural resources and landscapes are providing the canvas for modern masterpieces, as design looks to create a building that blends in with its space rather than demand all of the attention. So you might be wondering, what is the end of this story? Where did the Greek and Roman influence go that was so prominent for centuries? While it may feel absent, its legacy continues in small ways. Look around you. While it certainly has taken on new form, many of the concepts are still there. Those columns may not be one of the classical orders, but they are certainly columns. And look at that dome. If it weren't for the Romans, we may not have the Superdome. As for the usage of concrete, well, it would be hard to even imagine our lives without it now. So our story ends, not with a dramatic shout of revival of the classical elements, but with a quiet sense of gratitude for all that we've been able to build upon.